Do you know why Skidoo called their first rider-forward snowmobile the Rev? Because it did revolutionize the entire snowmobile industry. But more than that, it forever changed the benchmark for how a modern snowmobile should handle. Revolutionary? Yeah. But revolutions are, by nature, progressive. They carry on. They change and adapt as things around them change. Likewise, Skidoo's Rev has continued to change and evolve with the times, getting better and better with each iteration. For 2017, Skidoo has given us the G4, and this latest Rev chassis has once again pushed the boundaries of established snowmobile design. And while the entire sled is interesting, there are a few pieces of new technology here that are not just interesting, but in reality, extremely important and likely to change the future of the modern snowmobile yet again. There's no question, the most important new piece of technology found under the hood of the G4 platform is the P-drive clutch. Why? Why is a set of clutches so important to the snowmobile industry, you're probably asking. I can't put it any better than how Mark described it during a discussion we had the other day. He said, P-drive dramatically reduces friction inside the CVT, which exponentially increases efficiency, making for a more responsive feeling sled in nearly every condition. Only Mark could make a set of clutches sound that impressive. But it's not just his word I'm going on here. I have firsthand experience with P-drive, and his description is entirely accurate. So how is this increase in efficiency accomplished? It's actually a pretty simple concept. Instead of the spider fingers sliding on 3 plastic buttons up and down the torque towers, 3 bearing-supported wheels now replace the plastic buttons. When upshifting and backshifting, there is literally no friction between the torque tower and the spider. This allows the clutches to operate more efficiently and achieve shift RPM 90% of the time. To put this into context, regular button-style clutches only achieve shift RPM 50% of the time. Because this system is so good and so noticeable, it's something the competition is definitely going to have to develop. Once you've tried it, you definitely don't want to be without it. The second piece of new technology, or in this case, new design that we think is truly revolutionary on the G4 Rev platform is its integrated tunnel cooler. For decades, tunnel coolers were extruded pieces of aluminum that were either attached to or integrated into the structure of a snowmobile's tunnel. The tunnel on the G4 is different though. Instead of coolant flowing through an extruded piece of aluminum that's attached to the tunnel itself is dual layers and hollow inside. The coolant flows through the tunnel. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd almost think this was a tunnel for a fan-cooled sled because you can't see the coolers themselves. Again, why is this bit of design ingenuity so important? Because it's simpler, lighter, and more efficient than the old tunnel design. Instead of looking at tunnel design the way engineers have for decades, the engineers at Skidoo started with a complete blank sheet of paper. They asked themselves not what was the usual way or easiest way of using the tunnel for cooling. They asked themselves what was the best way, and in our mind, this is it, at least for now. The final piece of important new technology found on Skidoo's 2017 G4 chassis is actually related to the motor, but it affects the entire sled. It's called a flat stator, and it allows the motor to be 4 inches narrower than anything we've ever seen before. Instead of the stator looking like a wheel with the magnets laid out widthwise from the side of the motor, the flat stator is shaped more like a fan with flat blades. A traditional stator is, for lack of a better description, thick. The flat stator, you guessed it, it's flat. Why is this so important? Well, the layout of a snowmobile engine inside its chassis is a very fine balancing act between keeping the sled as narrow as possible, yet still leaving enough room for the engine, stator, recoil, and primary clutch. All this while still trying to keep the mass of the engine as centered in the chassis as possible. We've talked a lot about centralized mass over the years. It was one of the most revolutionary aspects of the original Rev. Up till now, when we talk about centralized mass, we've been focused on front-to-rear centralization only. With the flat stator, the G4's 850 engine is significantly narrower than other traditional designs and can therefore be more precisely centered inside the chassis. In this way, Skidoo has managed to centralize mass not only front to rear, but also side to side. This makes for a sled that feels planted, stable, easy to maneuver, and very light on its feet, turning either left or right. A new Stator design might not seem like a big deal all on its own, but when you consider the implications a narrower engine has on the overall design of a snowmobile and its chassis, it's easy to see why this one change is so important. The G4 isn't perfect. No sled is, and we're still waiting for that glorious day when someone out there designs the perfect snowmobile. It hasn't happened yet, but there's no question. Thanks to the engineers at Skidoo, we are a few steps closer than we've ever been before.
If you enjoyed the video that you just watched, like it and then subscribe to our page for more great content from SnowTrax TV.